Other interesting information from this Italian study was that the average age of a deceased and COVID-19 positive patient was 79.5 years. The median was 80.5. So think about that. The vast majority of those people who have died and were COVID positive were elderly. By the way, the vast majority of people who die that are not COVID positive are elderly. That is consistent with the CDC's results as well. If you take a look at their numbers, they've organized it differently, so you can't quite pin down the value. But it's very clear that elderly are far more susceptible to death by COVID-19 than those who are young. Now, one way you could interpret that statistic is that COVID-19 just hits the elderly much harder. They're much more susceptible, at least to its symptoms. Maybe not to getting it, but to its effects once it hits them. And that might be right. But there's another possibility. So of all the people who died in 2018, the average age was 79 years. Now, none of those people died of COVID-19 because it wasn't in humans yet. They hadn't been exposed to it. The average age of a person who dies COVID positive, 79 years. But the average age of a person who dies COVID negative is 79 years. So you see, that's the number you would expect to get if COVID-19 was actually doing nothing at all. If it did not contribute in any way to a person's death, then the average age of death would be unaffected, wouldn't it? Now, I'm not saying that COVID-19 is doing nothing. I'm just pointing out that if it was a major deadly disease, it would reduce your life expectancy, but it hasn't. Just as a way to illustrate this, the average age of someone who dies with blue eyes would be about 79 years. So you say, well, obviously having blue eyes is far more likely to kill you if you're elderly. No, you're more likely to die if you're elderly. Eye color is totally irrelevant. So of those 249,000 COVID-19 deaths, the average age was 79 years. The fact that they were COVID positive might not be all that relevant